Welcome to the Smoke and Rope Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Basor, and today is episode 64. And I can't believe this is the first time we've had Michael Komorn on the show. Seems like we would have had him on a few times by now. But Michael, thanks for finally being on. Excited to talk to you today.
My pleasure. It's been hard getting through and getting booked on the show. I know how successful it is, and it is the podcast to be on.
Well, thank you very much. Kevin over at True Cannabis. What's happening in Lansing?
Oh, not much. Just running around a little bit today. Super excited to have Michael Komorn on. I've never actually got a chance to meet Michael in person, but I've read about him. He's been influential in a lot of the most prominent marijuana cases in the state of Michigan, and so I'm super excited to kind of dig into his mind and hear about some of the things he's been involved in.
Very cool. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. And then Tom Bell over at Real Leaf, as we're going to talk about CannaJam today, and Tom's a giant part of that too.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to get into that, and we're really happy that Michael reached out to Real Leaf Solutions to to assist with this year's event. Man, we're really excited to talk about that too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I just wanted to give Michael like the introduction he deserves. I first knew of Michael in 2009. He was the man behind the MMMA, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, and the website that really I was starved for marijuana information in 2009. I was looking anywhere, and I found the website, and that's where a lot of the people were on that we read about, like a lot of the first timers of the new wave in 2009. So learned about Michael from there, but then moving forward, every event, every protest. Like Kevin mentioned, a lot of different prominent court cases. Just recently with Michael Toohey and the probation that we had Michael on the show. Obviously, the state police crime lab, which I talk about, and we're gonna get into that a little bit today. But just really an incredible activist. We call him the Podfather as well. He's the original podcast. Don't let him fool you about ours. He's been doing it for over a decade and planting green trees. So, Michael, it's always great to talk to you. Don't talk enough, and thanks for being such an activist, that we needed over these years. So why don't we talk about CannaJam? We mentioned it. Give it the proper introduction, Michael, and I'm excited that some of the proceeds go to the Redemption Foundation as well.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate those kind words, and you likewise have been a pivotal factor. You're unfortunately one of the tragedy stories, as we know, and I'm sure you've talked about as a Lansing 7, and there's been a lot of those stories, and unfortunately I've been involved with them, but it is different times now, and we're excited about this CannaJam, and in a way I like to think of the CannaJam as the pinnacle of success that we've gotten to. It's a representation of the state of Michigan's desire to want to legalize recreational cannabis for adults over the age of 21, treat it no different than alcohol. And we are very excited about the event. I can't say enough about Tom and Real Leaf Solutions. Tom says we reached out to him when I found out he was interested. I was excited. Tom obviously is not just a business owner of a licensed cultivation center, but he's the man, the legend of Echoes of Pink Floyd, who signed on, and I was just excited to learn that they were excited to be part of it. That's a secret. I didn't tell him about that, but he made it very easy to engage with them, and they are going to be headlining and finishing off the show probably from about 7:30 to 10 o'clock with their magical covers of all the Pink Floyd classics, which include a light show. So I just can't tell you how excited I am about that. That in and of itself should bring people out and make it exciting. But the event itself is a new endeavor. For me at least, and it's of course a licensed event. I've had this marijuana event organizer license for a few years now, and unfortunately, because of the COVID, we haven't been able to gather. And I think the timing is right for something like this, especially in light of all the lockdown and inability to have events, to see live music, to gather as humans, and spacing ourselves, being outside, and using music, food, cannabis, and humans gathering and enjoying all that together as the main theme. So we are beyond excited, and I appreciate you asking about it and helping us to get the word out.
Oh, for sure. And now, let's hear from our own Tom Beller, and let us know about his history with the band and your thoughts on it. I know there'll be a release product there as well. And
Oh, yeah, we're certainly hoping so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two of my favorite things in the world, my previous life as a full-time musician and event producer and lighting technician, doing laser light shows, working festivals, until we jumped on this full-time cannabis endeavor. And that kind of slowed things down with music, and the band kind of slowed down playing gigs. And this is our first show in 2 years, and everyone is so excited. It's an 8-piece band. It's been around since 2004. I joined in 2000. I might be wrong if somebody wants to correct me down below if you're paying attention. But I joined the band in 2007, 2008, and the band has evolved since then. And we have some of the best musicians in the state of Michigan, and we even have somebody coming up from Cincinnati to play. And the band's super stoked. I mean, COVID really put everyone into a funk with the arts kind of going away. That only made things worse. So, CannaJam's a perfect celebration for, first of all, celebrating the fact that we can openly consume and act like the freaking adults that we always have been when it comes to what's a responsible way to consume things that you enjoy in an open space with other people with, like minds. And, the fact that we can do this is reason enough to celebrate. So, I mean, Pink Floyd, cannabis, lasers. I mean, I can't think of a better combination. Plus, there's going to be other great artists there. We have comedy, we have more music, we have Darren McCarty, and other things. On-site consumption. Of course, there will be real leaf products there also, which we're also excited about. The green room, I'm very excited about because typically we'd have coolers of beer, anything that we wanted, but there was never. The cannabis we always had to hide somewhere, So now we get to celebrate.
That's incredible. You mentioned the other acts, Tom and Michael. I know it starts at noon. It's October 9th. It's a Saturday. It's in Ypsilanti. And there's some big name comedians and other music. And then there's also, part of the proceeds go to the John Sinclair Foundation and also the Redemption Foundation. Tell us some about the sponsors and the people vending and what it's been like, because this is one of the first ones. There's been a few, but you're new at event planning, you said, but it's got to be quite a process and experience.
It has been. First of all, I appreciate you being involved, Ryan. And as you mentioned, proceeds are going to be directed towards the Redemption brand as well as John Sinclair. John Sinclair, we're attending, and Ryan Bassler will be in the VIP tent. And for those that want to engage in cannabis use with those two people in the VIP tent, they can be assured they will be there. It has been an interesting process. The other vendors that signed on all had a similar excitement as Tom represented, and those were the people we were really looking for. Those that saw the vision, liked the ideas that were associated, and wanted to be part of it. And those retailers are Sticky Yipsy, a botanical company, Oz Cannabis, and Pure Lapeer. Those are the vendors that are going to be there. I understand they're going to be providing us with a menu, so those that are attending can in advance see what kind of products are going to be there and even identify what they may want to purchase or what they may want to test or try. The other fun and exciting things about the event are going to be, and I really went about this with the idea that this would be the inaugural comedy festival. I don't want to take away any of the excitement of Tom and Pink Floyd, and I hope they are returning every year until we're too old to do it. But I do like the idea and the piece of having a comedy festival that brings jokes, humor, good times, in that kind of setting, and create a kind of artist comedy place where people can look forward to seeing the top comedians next year and the years to come. This year, our headline comedian is a individual by the name of Mike Young, who I've known for a long time. I actually went to elementary school with him, and it may sound that I'm biased thinking that he's funny. He was the kind of class clown and, Mr. Everybody growing up and whatnot. And but he's been involved with a lot of different projects. He was on the Entourage series a number of times. He tours as a comedian with Bob Saget. I would put him in the orbit of, he's in the orbit of Bill Burr and whatnot. There's a couple links of him on his podcast and whatnot. And also he's currently in Detroit because he's filming a movie that's being financed by Dan Gilbert. It's a movie called Stealing Jokes, and it's going to be out later this year. And I anticipate when he goes on the road, he'll run into Bill Burr and Chappelle and tell him how great Ypsilanti was and how they have to play it next year, how the crowd was great. They laughed at all the jokes. And we're hoping it becomes a staple of Michigan gathering of comedians year after year. And Michigan doesn't really have something like this. Call it like the what do you call? I can't think of the name of it, but like the movie festivals that we've heard of and know about, but creating one here in Ypsilanti.
Yeah.
Sundance, like a Sundance Film Festival, the Ypsilanti Comedy Festival. That's what I'd like this to turn into. So those are the acts. We also have Darren McCarty, of course, his slapstick comedy tour, which is hilarious. He tells a lot of great stories. We have another artist by the name of Randy Kaplan, who will be playing a Bob Dylan cover set. Randy's a very talented musician. He is actually, recording artist. His shtick has been that he records like classic songs, but intersects lyrics for kids. And, he's got like, Everybody Poos songs and, Don't Eat the Chips and Brush Your Teeth songs to like old Robert Johnson or, whatever. He's got all kinds. It's a great thing. But he's going to waive all the kid stuff and he's going to play some cover music for us, Bob Dylan themes. And we'll have a DJ there. And we're excited about it. There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, there's a lot of extras because it's a state license event. I mean, all the things that one would need to think about and accomplish are kind of built into the rules and licensing. We have to have security and we got to have, people from the state there, and all the things that are going to make it a safe, enjoyable experience are kind of built into it. But it's been an interesting experience, and it's coming together nice, and we're hoping a lot of people show up and want to engage with us.
No, I'm excited for it. It's something that we've been dreaming about since I've known you. A lot of us, we always used to sit around and talk about this type of stuff and what we'd like to see. And Michael, you're obviously a huge part of getting us to Prop One and the whole process with all of that. So it's exciting. I like the fact that it's you doing it, and it's Tom involved, and it's myself, and there's a lot of the great provisioning centers. So hopefully a lot of people come out. I'm going to be there. I think it's going to go well. And like you said, like get people used to it and have it the inaugural run, and let's do it every year and make it bigger, like you said. And so super excited. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. With that, I want to ask you a question and go over. You were the attorney on the old state forensic crime lab case with Ken Stecker at PAM, who I used to be in meetings with in 2010 when we were part of CPU. So just watching all that, and then also Greg Machad with the Michigan State Police, now with Veritas Labs and the AG's office. Oh, shooty. So put a lot of good people in jail, took kids away. I guess if you could kind of give a quick summary of what happened and how you came to FOIA and kind of breaking the case.
For sure. And unfortunately, I don't know that event has cleared the way of the inherent problems that exist and still exist with the Forensics Science Division of the Michigan State Police, hashtag Crime Factory. And I say that because despite all of the things that were exposed in that case, the current status of the Michigan State Forensic Science Division is that it hasn't changed. The Forensic Science Division is housed by the Michigan State Police. The forensic scientists get paid by the Michigan State Police's budget. This is the problem. A scientific lab should be independent. It shouldn't have favoritism. It shouldn't be inclined to testify favorably to one side or the other. They should be neutral, and they should be about science, not convictions. And the Max Lorenz case, unfortunately, is an example of what happens when you have this inherent bias and influence being made by the law enforcement community. So the Max Lorenz case is, the context of the timing is very important. What had happened is, if we all remember, there was a question about what usable marijuana meant. And there was a terrible opinion that came out, the Earl Carruthers case, who I happened to represent at the time, where they found in the Court of Appeals that the marijuana brownies were not considered usable marijuana because there was no visible plant material in the substance that was being tested. And their ruling essentially said that non-plant material marijuana was not usable and therefore illegal. And ultimately, the legislature changed this and they amended the MMA and it applied retroactively. So that ruling was meaningless, because if it affected someone, the law said that that effect should be removed. And but there was a lot of convictions at the time. Now, this has nothing to do with what the crime lab did, but they used it as an opportunity to get this discussion going amongst themselves. And we had, and how I learned of this was that Max Lorenz was a patient living in Ottawa County. The police had been called to come to his house. His wife had an illness. When they were attending to her, or EMS, the police showed up. When they were attending to her, they found an empty container with a smudge of what was wax. They seized it. It wasn't even enough to use. It was just like leftover remnants. They seized it, took it to the lab, and the lab reported that this substance was synthetic THC. The law at the time was that synthetic THC was a 7-year felony, and the possession of marijuana was a misdemeanor. So the importance of this was that the lab, by finding that it was synthetic THC, raised the criminal liability for Max Lorenz to a 7-year felony from what would have been a potential misdemeanor and something he could defend with his card or be immune from the charges because of his card. So this was remarkable to me, and we ended up getting a FOIA of all the communications that were taking place between the lab and anyone else with this topic. And you see this remarkable conversation that takes place between people in the Michigan State Police, with people in the Michigan State Forensic Science Division, and other prosecutors, including Ken Stecker. And the conversation begins, and they're passing this information around. I have a series of probably 50, 100 emails where they begin with the Carruthers and kind of use that to open up the discussion. And, you know, some of the lab people are, we're getting a lot of samples sent to us, and I'm not seeing any marijuana. We don't know if it's marijuana. We don't see any flower or leaf material, plant material. So we don't know if it's marijuana or it is, synthetic THC that's in it. We can't delineate. We don't see it. And there was 2 scientists that in the conversation that stood up. I mean, they didn't really stand up. I'm reading this, but their voice was one that, to me, was standing up saying, wait a second, I love science. We're not going to let this happen. And they went on to describe, we know that this is marijuana. We know it's not synthetic THC. We know it's marijuana because from our own GCMS, the machine that they use to test the substance, because that's what they do. They put it in a machine that is reliable, and it gives them data. And they look at the data, and it shows that there's THC in it. And they're saying that we're not sure where this THC came from. And what this lab person said, his name was, I'll think of it in a second, but he said, we know that this is marijuana because all you have to do is turn the page of the data that comes out of the GCS machine, and you can see it's got CBD, CBA, CBG, and all these other cannabinoids in it. And if it was synthetic, those things wouldn't be in there. And the suggestion that this is synthesized by an individual, and they knew how to synthesize CBD and CBG and CBA, and would even think about inserting it into synthetic THC, is ridiculous. It doesn't happen. It isn't scientifically possible. Furthermore, they said there's never been a raid ever in the state of Michigan that uncovered a THC making lab. This is ridiculous. We have concerns that we
Okay.
It's frozen right now. We're gonna get. Oh,
Got it
Mike,
so
there you
worked
are.
up.
That's right. All right,
Hey,
I don't know
Michael,
where I
you're back.
dropped out. But, all right. Hear me about Bradley Cho, the scientist, and his reasoning. There's never been a raid in the state of Michigan where we've uncovered a synthetic lab.
Yep.
The data that is being produced is evidence of it. And he had concerns that laws in Michigan provided a immunity or a misdemeanor at most. So so that was the emails and whatnot. We ended up filing motions in the circuit court. And I will tell you this, at the district, the fact that the lab report said it was synthetic THC, the bind over from the district court judge was on a marijuana charge, which makes no sense and just goes to show you how no one cared to look and no one wanted to address that at the district court level. We were lucky enough to have a judge at the circuit court, and we filed our motions and the court addressed it and ultimately dismissed the case. But that wasn't the end of it, because the worst part of it was that Max's child was seized by the government in a CPS action, alleging that Max was a substance abuser for his cannabis use, and they ran with the whole synthetic THC thing as long as they could. The other downside of this, and this is still a problem in Michigan regarding CPS, you guys may have heard that story of the couple from Michigan that ended up in Alabama, got arrested for possession of marijuana and had their kid taken. I jumped in on that case and represented Erica Prock is her name. And after they took the kid in Alabama, brought it back to Michigan, Michigan still wanted to keep the kid and wouldn't return it to her, claiming she had a substance abuse problem because of her husband's medical cannabis use. So this problem with CPS still exists, but it's still prevailing, and you still have courts and judges that are not returning children because of the stigma of cannabis use, even by patients. But Max's case was even worse because there was a scenario that was unveiled to us, which is this. At some point in Michigan's history, the DHSS, which handles the CPS and management of the Child Protective Services, had contracted in different jurisdictions with religious organizations that have deeply held religious beliefs. The one that we were doing was Bethany Christian Services. There's a Holy Cross organization as well. And they are literally the people in charge of CPS. They're the workers that intervene and investigate complaints are from Bethany Christian Services or Holy Cross. If there's a adoption or if there's a removal temporarily, they will place the child with another family that's part of the Bethany Christian Services religious organization. They've been vetted. They believe in, that God and those religious principles, and they've been cleared to take in children that have been removed from homes. So I had never encountered this as a lawyer, I think has been practicing 24 years at that time. I'm at like 30 now. But we got into court, and I was asking questions of the worker in the CPS case who had recommended the removal. And this is not uncommon. She's probably 25 years old. She had a bachelor's degree in, something, social services, something, no kind of PhD, not someone that was had a long history of human experiences, adult experiences, kids or what have you. But she was the one in power who was making all the recommendations. When I finally got her on the stand, I asked her, what about this CPS manual? What about the law in Michigan? What about the card? What about the state law that protects parents who are in compliance with the MMA from Child Protective Services? And you know what she said to me? She said, we don't have to follow that. We don't have to follow the law in the state of Michigan. And I realized I was dealing with an argument that didn't deal with secular law, but I was dealing with an argument that I had to undo her religious beliefs, because the edict that is believed by Bethany Christian Services is that under no circumstances will cannabis ever be acceptable, whether it's legal, whether it's medical. We are against it, and if someone's using it, we're going to remove the child.
They don't read the Bible then, because it's in.
That's man. That's a rough one, Michael. That's a rough one. Think about that. I'm about to have my newborn here in about 5 weeks, so I'm sure we all think about it. With that, man, hey, I know you and Tom are big stars today on a lot of podcasts and promos, so we have a hard out here in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to let these guys let us, say goodbye and thank you for being on. So, Kevin?
Yeah, Michael, I share your frustration with the Michigan State Police. When I got into lobbying, I realized that they have a lobbying firm that's there at the state at all times, putting their hands on legislation and things like that, which I don't believe is their position as our protectors. And secondarily, like you had mentioned, all the interpretations of law that get told publicly, the lockbox in your car, all these different things that are never addressed until someone like you comes along and challenges them. I'm in total disagreement with that. So I'm glad we have people like you coming through the pipes and challenging them on these issues. I'm glad that from all the stories that we've heard today that you're addressing this stuff as we move forward, because we need people like you, and I appreciate you. Glad to have you on the show today.
My pleasure. I just getting warmed up. I was about 50 more minutes of material. I'll have to come back at another time and work on that.
For sure. We'd love it. For sure.
Yeah, Michael, thank you for always fighting the good fight, man. I'm so excited to be working with you for the CannaJam Fest. Also, just a little last plug here, October 9th, right? Riverside Park, Ypsilanti. And it's going to be a celebration, because despite all the struggles we still have, we still need to take time to celebrate how far we have come. And we couldn't have come this far without people like you.
That's right. And Ryan, you're an example also. Like it's going to be exciting and triumphant when we share at the event and how far we've come, where things were 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's been, we got a long way to go, but it is a point in time that I think it's worthy of stopping and celebrating and joining as a community. The other thing is that in the divisive times that we're living in, cannabis is one of the few issues that permeates political lines. It wouldn't have become legal if both sides of the political spectrum didn't vote for it. It would not have happened. So I do think that with all the, infighting amongst our communities, it's easy to say that people would join over cannabis, and it's less contentious and certainly a gel that brings people together. I think we would all agree about that.
Man, that's a great point, Michael. If we all smoked a joint and talked to each other face to face, and looked at each other that way, that hopefully we get to do a lot more of that, and that'll help all that. But not to get too philosophical, I want to thank Michael for being on, and excited about CannaJam. We're all going to be there, and we will have you back on, Michael. Just could have talked for hours, go down memory lane, and like you and Josh Covert and Bill Dory and Matt Abel, and then a ton of others who got out on ahead of us and been really for a decade, it was the attorneys that were the activists and got us here, and did it because it was right. I know you took a lot of L's on a lot of retainers and always followed through. So thanks for being on. And with that, I hope to see everybody at CannaJam. I'll see you guys next week.
CannaJamFest.com. Tickets available on Eventbrite. Sorry. Thank you.